Congresswoman, great to see you. Thank you so much.
Great to be here with you.
For being here. How's it going? That's kind of an existential question, but like in a literal sense, you're in the middle of everything. We only get to watch from the outside. You're on the inside. How's it going?
It's not going well.
Yeah, say more about that.
Yeah, and I think that, first of all, let me thank everyone that's here. The reason that I do the work that I do is because of you. And I try to do everything that I can to make sure that I'm continuously focused on the people that are back home, the people that are relying on me to be an authentic and unwielding voice for them. And so I just want to say thank you again to each of you. I am going to say that it's really bad because not only are we enduring something we've never experienced before, as we came up on the State of the Union address, we started to look through history and figure out, what does one do when a dictator is coming through? We were trying to figure out, what are the options? And it is true that we are in a time that we've never seen before. We have someone that does not believe in co-equal branches of government, and then we have people that are party to those other co-equal branches that have decided that they would cede their constitutional oaths and responsibilities to kneel to, I don't even know if it's Trump, right? It feels as if Elon is really running everything and Trump is just hanging out, signing whatever executive order somebody puts in front of him. And when he's not doing that, he's just posted up in Mar-a-Lago, playing golf, right? And so Elon hasn't seen all the waste because we've, spent a whopping more than $10 million already on Trump and golfing in Mar-a-Lago. I'm sure there's a few things we could do with that $10 million that would be more productive. And what's most concerning to me, and it's why I'm so happy that I'm specifically here with this platform, is that there is not only an attack on us as Americans, and when I say us, it's not Democrats. I specifically say us as Americans because there were those that really thought that Donald Trump was going to make their lives better. And they went out and voted for him because of that, right? But right now they're like, well, wait a minute, veterans are being fired. And, what's going to happen to the VA? Because they're talking about they want to get rid of 80,000 jobs at the VA. And if you know anything about the VA, people have been telling us more and more is needed, not less, right? Or the people that don't understand that when you're looking at something like the Consumer Protection Bureau, that they actually have fees that they charge, and a lot of those fees go to take care of a lot of the salaries. There are no savings really that we will see by firing people. But I can tell you that by firing people and with costs going up, that a recession is upon us. And that's not good for anyone.
You think that the economy is, there have been signs that people are becoming concerned about the state of the economy. We'll come back to the people who voted for this and what they think about this in a second, but you're worried about the economy.
Oh, I absolutely am. And it didn't have to be this way. And I understood that we went through hyperinflation as it relates to COVID-19. Literally, it's wait a minute, one day we're paying this and then it ballooned. But then that inflation started to slow, right? And then, we had an administration that was looking into the greed. We even had an admission from Kroger that they were price gouging, right? They were taking advantage. And so, instead of having an administration that's looking into price gouging, we have an administration that, when we were getting rid of junk fees or when we were getting rid of things such as the overdraft fees, right? You'd end up paying $35 per overdraft fee. They were like, that is extortion, right? So that they were capped at $5. Now, please explain to me why it makes sense that Republicans are like, no. We want the banks to go back to extorting people, right?
Let me come back to the point you made. So we had an election. We believe the election was conducted fairly, unlike some have alleged previous elections.
Unless and until, I'm here in the audience, unless and until I have evidence otherwise. Yes.
Yes, right, okay. Right.
I am still data-driven. I'm a data-driven person.
This will be a different conversation if we're going to go down that path. Okay, so we assume that the election was conducted fairly, and the president won not just the Electoral College, but he won by a significant margin the popular vote. Didn't get to 50%, but he won the popular vote by several million. The point is, people voted for him.
Yes.
The question is whether people voted for this.
Yes.
So then what do we think about how the people who voted for him are viewing the moment we're in?
I think that there's a lot of regret. I think that the sycophants, there's nothing that you can say about them. Like, there is a real cult that is taking place, and they follow their leader, and they believe whatever he says, and they're just going to get in line. And then there are those that are like, well, wait a minute. Like, why is it that I don't have health care? But the billionaires are still having, like, multi-million-dollar weddings? Like, why is it that I'm not going to be able to go to college, or my kid isn't going to be able to go to college, or I'm not going to be able to eat because they're getting, like, wait a minute, what is the point of this? Like, what is happening?
But, of course, these are effects, Congresswoman, these are things that may be felt, may happen as a consequence of, I mean, he's only been in the White House for a couple months, as we sit here. I mean, really, in the end, the oldest saw in the world is true. Elections have consequences.
Yes.
Good consequences and bad. And the country voted for Donald Trump. We'll see what the products of that decision
we are already seeing.
Yeah.
And they are not good.
Yeah.
There's no one that is yelling and screaming that, oh, yes, we're so happy you fired all these people at the VA.
What do you think is, so what do you think, stay with that and the role that Elon Musk is playing. What do you think is the goal here? I mean, it may seem obvious to you, it may seem obvious to some people watching this, but in the end, what are they working toward with everything that we've seen so far?
Making us Russia Junior. I mean, I don't really know what to say. I mean, like, because, you know, one of the things that we benefit from as Americans is really our ignorance. And I'm going to say that with all love, right? Because we've had so much privilege, right? Like, to the north and the south of us, we have friends, or at least they used to be friends. I don't know how friendly they want to be with us nowadays, right? But, like, we've shared, like, a very friendly relationship. And then the east and the west, we've had water. And so we've not had to worry about having kind of hostile neighbors that are right there at the border and that kind of stuff. That is a privilege of living in this country. That cannot necessarily be said when you are living in certain parts of the Middle East, or when you're living in Europe. Like, you may have friends over here and then enemies right here. It's a lot different, okay? And so we've enjoyed that privilege. And right now, to have someone that is literally picking fights with our friends for no reason, like, why are we in a trade war? Like, what exactly happened? Like, who is this helping? Like, it's just crazy. Like, why? I can tell you, though, that housing costs, if we continue to play this game with Canada, our housing costs are going to go up. Like, that is something that people absolutely said housing costs were already too high. But this is where we get a lot of our steel and lumber from.
Right. And so the tariffs, let's just say, something that seems obvious, that the tariffs are not only going to affect Democratic households.
Correct.
Or the households of people who did not support this president.
Correct.
That will be indiscriminate. It'll affect everybody.
Absolutely.
Right.
And that was one of the things that, you know, I think really got lost. I will say that we've allowed ourselves to be distracted. During that election, we got distracted. When I was traveling the country on behalf of VP Harris, I would hear people saying things like, well, the Democrats have emasculated us. And I was like, well, what exactly does that mean? Is it because it's a woman? Or, you know, I would hear some of them felt that way because there were all the conversations around reproductive rights. And I'm like, here's the deal. If she got in office and she decided that women should have bodily autonomy, great. I don't know how that makes you any less of a man. Like, I mean, I'm just like, what is happening, right? But they were seeping them kind of with this information. It's a woman, and she's looking out for women's rights. Okay, but it doesn't mean that she's not looking out for anybody else. Like, you know, and what we've got right now is a guy that lied. And I'm like, the fact that we believed him, I'm kind of confused, because he's like a known liar. And so why we believed him, I don't know. But he said, I know nothing about Project 2025. And so every time I would, you know, so I remember doing a hearing one time because I was trying to educate people through hearings about Project 2025. And I had a witness that I knew from Democracy Forward that I knew the answer, right? Actually, because we had been in Austin here on a panel, so I knew that she knew. So I said, you know, because as a lawyer, you're not supposed to ask the question to her.
Unless you know the answer.
Unless you know the answer. So,
right, exactly.
So I knew she knew,
I know that part. All right, yeah.
So I'm like, so is Donald Trump's name, is his name mentioned at all in Project 2025? And then she wanted to go into this. I was like, girl, we ain't got time for that because you only get 5 minutes. So I was like, just yes or no.
Yeah.
And so she's like, yes. And I was like, is it mentioned more than once? Yes. Is it mentioned more than... And then I finally said, it's mentioned 312 times. So it's very interesting that he's saying that he has no idea about it, and he's like all through it, right?
Yeah.
And so now what we see is that he did not want to embrace Project 2025 because it was clear that the American people were rejecting Project 2025. That was getting rid of the Department of Education. That was consolidating power with the executive branch. That was getting rid of things such as, well, we see what's happening to our farmers, right? It was getting rid of NOAA so that we would not know, oh, there's weather issues, right? It was really putting forth a fight against the free press, right? And we're seeing that in real time. Like, who kicks the Associated Press out of anything? Like, what are we doing, right? All because they refuse to call the Gulf of Mexico Gulf of America.
So you're saying that basically he's, and I think this is something that you and others have said, that he campaigned one way, told us one thing, and then has come into office and is doing something.
Correct.
So let me ask you about your fellow Democrats and the place of Democrats in Congress and around the country in pushing back, in opposing this in ways that are meaningful.
Yeah.
Is the party... Are the opponents up to the task? Because at least for the first 2 months, it's felt like he and the administration have pretty much done whatever they want. And it's largely been without anything in their way. So tell me about how you feel about the opposition at this point.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I will say we are a big tent party. Let's start there.
Okay.
Level set.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say that I think resistance means different things to different members of the caucus. For me, it's to get a little rowdy. Just saying.
You know how to make a fist.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I will also say that I enjoy privileges that other members of my caucus don't.
Why?
I have the most democratic seat in the state.
You're not at risk electorally.
I'm not at risk at all.
Yeah.
I also will say that I also don't want to be in a place in which I don't feel like I can represent the way that I want to represent. And I believe in democracy. So I believe that my district should fire me if they take issue with how I fight. I believe that that is their right. I believe that that's what they should do. So I don't go into everything scared about my next election because I feel like it paralyzes you.
Yep.
And I think...
And is that what's going on?
Yes, in my opinion.
So where you have Democrats not fighting, you think it's because they're concerned about...
They're concerned about their next election.
What happens in 2 years?
Yeah, they're concerned about the next election. And I think, I personally see it a little differently. I think that we have to be willing to put it all on the line in this moment because I don't know what's on the other side if there is another side, right? Like, I think my level of fear about this moment may be more heightened than others. I think that some people are still... kind of functioning like there's no way that he can destroy everything. And I'm like, have y'all seen what he's done in the last few days?
Yeah.
You know, so I think that there's also kind of those people that are institutionalists that believe that the institution will survive. And I'm like, it's real weak. Right. It's on life support right now.
So does the party then need to be more like you or more like the people who are operating out of either fear or concern for their own situation? I mean, I want to stay with this because what I hear over and over from people who are frustrated with, to say the least, frustrated with what they've seen over the last 2 months is, where are the people who are supposed to be pushing back on this? Why are they not pushing back hard? I
think that our approach should be that we have a quarterback. And
who's your quarterback?
It's Hakeem.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Yes. So I think that we should approach it like...
how's he doing?
That's for the people to decide.
Well, I'm asking you, though.
I mean, the people look at it one way, the caucus looks at it another way. His job is to keep every faction of the caucus together.
But isn't his job to lead the effort to oppose in a respectful but firm way what he does not think is right for the country?
I think that he's leading in that way according to him.
Right, you're hedging. I have never known you to hedge in your life.
I know, but like, listen.
Why are you hedging?
You know, it's complicated. But listen, just let me, read between the lines. I don't really know what to say, but I will say this:
you may think you didn't say, but you said. Yeah.
I'm doing my best.
Yeah.
I think that because we're in Texas and we love football, I think if we look at this like a football team, because everything is about being a team in the legislature. Like, we're not the executive branch. Like, you've got to have teammates. So I'm trying to make sure I still got teammates, okay?
Right.
So you got to have teammates. And I think that we need to understand that if you're the quarterback, you're also not the wide receiver, the running man.
Running back, yes.
Yeah, the running back.
That was very Texas of you. The running man.
You're not playing the line. And I think that what we need to embrace is that everybody has their role. And I think what's happening right now is everybody wants everybody to hit the same note. And it's just not going to happen.
It's not realistic.
It's not realistic because of the type of districts that people come from, or because of literally who they are. Not everybody can do a podcast, so let's stop with it, right? Like some things are real awkward, right? Like, some people just should not do it. And I mean, this is real. And then when you think about like right now we're like, oh, Dem's got to do more communicating, and what does that look like? Like, it's kind of like, love you, Chuck Schumer, I do. That means that something's coming. So when we went out and we protested with so many of our amazing grassroots organizations in front of Treasury, it was great. This was like the largest one that we had as it relates to House members and Senate members that were participating. And all I kept hearing about was, y'all should have left Chuck at home. Not everybody can go out and get there in the streets. And so I think we need to understand that, embrace that, and encourage every portion of our team to just be great in their lane. And I think the idea...
And be authentic.
And be authentic, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
So I think where we're going wrong is that we want everybody to do the same thing.
Right.
And no one can get on the same page about what that thing is.
About what the same thing is.
Exactly.
Right. Do you reject the idea that there are things to learn from the success of the other side as the party looks to strategize for the next couple of months?
I don't reject it at all.
You don't?
And I think that if there are those people that can punch and are willing to punch, then we should be allowed to punch.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a headline